Okay, looks like we're live.
Hello, everybody.
Well, yeah, hello. Well, Greg, a nice Friday morning here in Pacific time.
Beautiful Friday afternoon in the Eastern time in Ohio.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're in Ohio. I forgot about that. Well, good morning, good evening, wherever you all are. This is Greg and Jack. Greg, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, my name is Greg Osuri. I'm the CEO founder of Akash Network.
Hey, and I'm Jack Zampolin. As of this week, I am the VP of Product at Akash Network. One thing to note before we get started here, if anyone has questions, please go ahead and drop them in the chat, and we'll try to answer them during the screencast. But we do have quite a bit to cover, so let's get into it. So this is the Akashian Challenge live stream, and we're going to be sharing updates and answering questions about Phase 2. And again, please submit questions if you have them. At every live stream, folks who attend through the end will be submitted for a drawing to win a Supermini, and we're going to do a random selection for that on this call. So stick around to the end, and we will do that. Yeah, so that's great. I think to get this started, maybe do a quick recap of Phase 1. I think we talked about that on our last live stream 2 weeks ago, but the folks did keep the network up for a little while longer, and we have had continued engagement there. So do you want to talk about that for just a second, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. So far, some of the key metrics, it is the largest testnet since Game of Stakes in the Cosmos ecosystem. We had about 211 teams that participated with over 91 active validators. And we do, I believe we allocated most of our 600,000 rewards, 666,000 rewards, but we do have some left over. I believe Michael is getting those numbers out, but it's public as well. Whatever we have left over, we're going to redistribute that to all the active validators right now as of this moment. So that should be more than sufficient to cover the costs for running your servers, and actually a lot more than sufficient.
Yeah, just a nice thank you for keeping your servers up and giving us an active testnet for those 2 weeks while we've been working internally to get Phase 2 going.
And you can. I think it's safe to turn off the servers now, because the second phase of the testnet, we will be running an internal node infrastructure, so we'll be able to rapidly test out the provider features, which we'll go into in details in this live stream.
Yeah, and just to recap, as far as Phase 1, I think during Phase 1, what we were looking most forward to testing was the decentralized coordination aspect that's going to be required to launch any of these Cosmos networks. And I think we had something like 84 validators online at Genesis time, which is just huge. And, the network stayed live through a really substantial and sustained DDoS attack that there's a blog post about that we talked about in the last thing, as well as an AWS outage. So, I think that testnet was very successfar in accomplishing the goals.
Oh yeah, more than so. I mean, we got. Yeah. I think we set a record as far as getting the network alive with 81 validators for the first time in a single shot. So, and we survived 2 major outages, which is unheard of. And we got really lucky with the Amazon outage. And yeah, so many proof points. And that gave us a lot of ammunition talking to our other liquidity partners, so we can start supporting liquidity very soon for this incredible network.
Yeah, that's exciting. So switching gears to Phase 2, as Greg sort of mentioned, we're going to be running the validator set for Phase 2, and we will also be running a number of Sentry nodes and seed nodes, so that people can connect via either P2P by running their own full node, or via RPC and just participate in the competition that way. And the reason that we're going to be doing this is so that we can more rapidly iterate on features internally. And this external coordination will be moved to hopefully launching a mainnet here very soon. But we really value and thank the validators who participated in phase one, and we're looking forward to working with you to launch the Akash mainnet. So with that being said, Greg, do you want to start going into phase two?
Absolutely. So like Jack mentioned, the goal of the phase two is to test out our decentralized exchange, or the DEX side of the feature set. And we will be primarily validating the provider actions, how providers behave in the network, and how learning the necessary operations, as well as trying to be didactic as well as entertaining. So what we covered, what we're going to cover in phase two is the validator architecture and monitoring. Essentially, the process of operating a validator is you have several possibilities on how you can operate a validator, and we want to encourage this creative validator process. Do you want to talk more about that, Jack?
Yeah, absolutely. So, these are sort of the first two things that we're going to be talking about are kind of ongoing challenges for phase two. One of the things that's sort of a continual problem in the Cosmos ecosystem is how do we monitor these validator installations that we have? And, I remember back as far as Game of Stakes, we had a segment where we were asking for validator monitoring tooling. Chris Remus, who worked on the first phase of this testnet, has some validator monitoring, but there's always additional frameworks. There's always more work to do here. And especially as more of these new networks like Akash come online, there's going to be custom metrics that need to be monitored for validators. And we're going to have the full provider and deployment modules ready to go, as well as the exchange module. So any monitoring metrics from there that are relevant to validator operations, or blogging about your validator architecture. These are things that during the competition we will reward folks for. So, and as far as validator architecture goes, there's the sort of two-tier architecture where you have the validator that's protected from the open internet, and seed node and Sentry nodes that you connect to the P2P network through. There's a number of ways to set that up on a number of different cloud providers, as well as your own hardware. So any blogs or other communications around validator architecture and monitoring is something that we will be rewarding throughout the duration of the 3 weeks of phase two.
Right. Like our previous phases, so we do have traditional one-off challenges, your phase completion challenges, and your bonus challenges. The reward structure will be released sometime in the next week. Ideally earlier on the Monday or Tuesday. So look out for that. And I think it's time we can go into the weeds. And please feel free to ask any questions. Post the questions, happy to answer you.
There's one other long-running challenge during this. We will have an area in the overclock/net repo where folks can add links to seed nodes as well as Sentry nodes that you're running publicly. And, we want to encourage during mainnet people to run this type of infrastructure, and we want to build a way to make this easily discoverable. I think folks looking to join networks right now, if you're looking to join the Cosmos mainnet, you go to the Cosmos/launch repo, and you get the couple of seed nodes that are listed there, and those seed nodes are invariably flooded and very difficult to connect to. So having additional areas where people can connect both via P2P and RPC for folks to have independent wallet connections is going to be important. So for folks who run that kind of infrastructure during this challenge, we'll have a way for you to show that publicly, and we will reward that participation as well. So that's the other long-running challenge for phase two.
And like anything, we do generally have tons of some tokens left over. We don't, fully allocate the 600,000, and we're going to be doing the same thing what we did with our phase one. reward long-running validators. Really encouraging behavior for you to help us scale this network or scale the phase.
Yeah, and this type of community infrastructure is very important to support things like Looney and the various explorers in the ecosystem. A couple of questions here to knock out before we talk about the phase 2 challenges. Crazyland asks, if I turn off my node after the first phase, can I participate in the second one and qualify for rewards? Yes, absolutely. And as Greg mentioned at the beginning of the call, please feel free to turn your nodes off for phase 1 now. Okay, and then
before you turn off, let's take. I guess we have that in the chain. I want to get a snapshot as to who's running so we can reward them.
Cool. Yeah. So give us just a little bit, but yeah. And then Abby Shake asks, hi, we have been participating in the challenges and wanted to know if there will be any phase-specific tooling that will be released by Akash during this phase. Abby Shake, great question. The only specific tooling that will be released will be Akash CTL, but we will be exercising the custom Akash pieces of that tooling. And I'm writing documentation right now to help support and clarify exactly which commands will be need to run. And we do anticipate that folks will build some custom tooling around Akash CTL as folks generally do during competitions like this. So some automation around the basic command line tooling we provide will probably be likely to win this phase.
Awesome. Meher asked, why should one bother buying Akash hardware when projects like Sonam and Golem seem to provide a similar service without the hardware? Or if you're referring to Akash Supermini, well, you don't need to buy Akash Supermini in order to participate. It's a complementary piece of hardware that essentially connects to the network and earns you tokens when you are not using the box. So it's a complementary device. It's not a mandatory device to connect to use Akash network.
Great. Okay, with those answered, and please go ahead and drop more if you've got them. Let's get into phase 2. Greg, do you want to talk about what we're going to be doing in week 1?
Yep, let me pull it up.
Oh, okay. Well, I've got it up. Or you can chat about it.
Go for it.
Okay, so week 1 is going to be called Capture the Orders. So in the Akash network, users will submit deployments to be picked up by providers, and there's a decentralized exchange that matches these orders with providers, essentially. So as a provider, what you're going to need to be doing is grabbing these orders. So using the Akash CTL and potentially some bash scripting, the Akash team will be submitting orders continuously throughout this phase, and your job as participants is to try to capture these orders. So that's essentially, I guess it's Akash CTL, TX, provider bid, potentially. And as you bid for these orders, some of them you will win. The wallets for the previous phase that you used in phase 1 will be provisioned with tokens, and you will use those tokens to capture those orders. Any additional items there, Greg?
Yeah, and you do not need any tokens per se in order to capture the orders. Anybody can capture. It's essentially trying to behave like a validator. So in case you don't have a wallet already in phase 1, that shouldn't stop you from participating in phase 2.
Yeah, well, we will be running a faucet for the network so that folks that potentially either didn't register or didn't have a wallet in phase 1 will be able to grab tokens. So, yeah.
In case you need tokens too. And we do, like anything, we will have the winning criteria as well as different bonus criteria, and bonus criteria usually are around creating content and sharing and helping your community members reach success.
Yeah, and we will be scoring both successful bids as well as total number of bids. And there's a bonus category for any blog posts detailing how the decentralized exchange works.
Yep. Week 2. Chaos is the ladder. You want to go?
Yeah, sure. So this is, we were talking a little bit about the decentralized exchange in phase one, and users will begin learning how that system works during phase one. And after that first week of sort of really basic operations to kind of understand that, we will have a portion of the challenge where it's throughput. How many orders and bids can you push through the decentralized exchange? So we will reward this on total lease hours per provider. So when you bid and win a lease as a provider, you start accruing lease hours. So total lease hours as well as count of lease. And then tenant, total lease hours as well as lease count. So both on the provider and tenant side, we will be rewarding folks for this. One thing to note, the piece of infrastructure that connects the provider to the backend data center is still under development, and we will maybe have it ready towards the end of phase two. But these challenges are just to test the on-chain portions of Akash under realistic load that we're likely to see out in the wild. So, you don't actually need to spin up any infrastructure to back these leases. This is more of a game to test the internals of the system and to see where the edges are.
And like we mentioned before, we will be running a testnet ourselves, all the node infrastructure, validated infrastructure ourselves. This is not to test the decentralization part of it. This is to test the scalability nature of our order book for the DEX. And the idea is to get it to scale, to web scale essentially, and identify the parameters for scalability that limit us, or understand, so we can design a roadmap accordingly to optimize for various performance bottlenecks.
Yeah, and one thing that I would note, I can probably anticipate some concerns from folks who participated in Game of Zones and saw the high volume throughput in a centralized hub. We have learned I've worked very closely on that project, and we have learned quite a bit on how to run those networks. So taking all of the best practices that we learned from Game of Zones and incorporating those into our internal architecture, we don't anticipate any huge issues there. But looking forward to that phase two of that challenge, these sort of throughput and how many of these things can you do challenges and these incentivized testnets are always fun. And network congestion may be something that folks run into. So just be prepared for that during phase two.
And we will be shipping, we anticipate shipping multiple releases during the phase two. Also keep an eye out for that. And as we said, because we are running this centralized, the reason we're doing that is to quickly iterate and fix bugs. So it's going to be a lot of development activity during this phase two. And we have about 3 weeks that we plan on running this. So it's going to be high throughput development activity in this 3 weeks as well.
Great.
Week 3, Jack?
Yeah. Cast a wide net. So this is additional DEX throughput testing. And we're encouraging participants to explore large-scale deployment options. In addition to the provider daemon, which should be in beta by this time. So folks should be able to provide actual compute to the network, and we will be testing that functionality in a non-incentivized way during this week in preparation for phase 3, which will be all about provider operations and actually deploying real applications on top of those machines. We will be scoring during week 3 the deployment with the largest number of individual providers. So tenants can create deployments that have many orders. Who can make a deployment that is fulfilled by the highest number of individual providers? So what this means in practice is, let's say you've got in your architecture like a Redis server and a machine learning model that you're training and potentially a web interface running somewhere. If you could run each of those pieces on separate providers using an individual deployment, that's exactly what we're talking about here. And then on the provider side for phase 3, we will be scoring the largest number of concurrent leases. So obviously, as a provider, you can sell compute to a large number of folks at a time. And we're looking to see which provider can accrue the largest number of independent leases during this time period.
Yeah, and so that will give us the staging area for phase 3, which is the largest phase of the testnet. That will include deployment of real live applications, and the reward structure is designed to incentivize unique applications. So we're looking to ideally bring on board, like what we did with our first Akashian Founders Challenge, where we did matrix servers and the right chats. Similarly, we like to bring about commonly used open source software. I believe there's a video streaming software that's very popular now, Jitsu or something, Jitsu, which is like an open source Zoom. So things like that, and leverage low cost compute in Akash as we go into the mainnet, and build a catalog of all these applications like Postgres and Redis and Node.js and whatnot. Jitsi. So things like that we'll be deploying in phase 3, and we'll reward folks for creating these containers. So if you're looking for some guidance on phase 3, I would start thinking of these open source applications that you use every day, start containerizing them. So by the time you get to phase 3, you can actually deploy that on Akash straight up and earn rewards that way. And
that's a great point, Greg. And during phase 3, that is going to be a huge part of the challenge. So there's going to be some challenges on the provider side around contributing compute to the network and other things like that. And then as far as the application development side, we will be rewarding primarily unique applications as well as blog posts and GitHub repositories that detail how to deploy those on the Akash network. A lot of the applications Greg mentioned are great. One other one that I'm looking forward to seeing is front ends for things like Uniswap and Compound hosted on the decentralized network, which I think would be really cool, as well as any of these other kind of Web3 applications. I think there's a lot of Ethereum stuff that people are going to be interested in. Polkadot just went live, so support for some Polkadot stuff, or anything within the Cosmos ecosystem. Kava's CDP module has just gone live, so there's probably some stuff around that. We would love to see deployments for those. So if you're interested in getting ahead on phase 3, please start working on containers and deployments in anticipation of full network operation for phase 3.
Right. And before we wrap up, people do have questions on your involvement. As many of you know, Jack's previous role was the head of product at Cosmos, and he was responsible for delivering both the Cosmos Hub as well as the IBC and running the IBC game of stakes along with Zaki. Now Jack is full-time at Akash, but he will, I'll let him speak to his involvement with Cosmos.
Yeah, I will continue to be involved in hub governance, and then also as part of my role here, we are based on top of the Cosmos SDK. We rely on this ecosystem, and we will be contributing back to it in the form of pushing user experience changes upstream into the Cosmos SDK. We're looking forward to contributing to the common effort to build JavaScript libraries that span the entire ecosystem, as well as other forms of code contributions and network support. So, that, like, for folks who would be worried that I'm leaving the ecosystem, no, that one of the reasons why I took this role at Akash and why I'm very excited about it is it allows me the opportunity to continue to contribute to this project that I've spent the last 2 years of my life ensuring is viable, and help build an application on top of that framework that I helped develop. And I'm really, really excited for the opportunity to do that and continue working with a lot of the same folks that I've been working with for the last couple of years. So if anyone has questions about that, happy to answer those. And as far as, I think the one thing that I didn't mention is IBC. And the Akash network, in our roadmap, we're talking about supporting stablecoin payments for compute on the Akash network. And by far the easiest way for us to accomplish that is going to be to enable IBC and Akash. So Akash will be an IBC-enabled zone, and there's a PR up on the Akash repo that is started the work to do that migration. And because I substantially helped ship and develop a huge chunk of that IBC work, I think we've got the expertise internally to make sure that that happens. So, yeah.
And just to summarize what Jack said, I mean, there is no better place to see a platform succeed than the application of the platform itself. So Akash, being the customer of Cosmos or the user of Cosmos, success of Cosmos is very much reliant on success of Akash and other platforms like Akash. So being on the front lines and contributing code back to the system is probably the best way to develop the system. So we're really excited, and we will be, like Jack said, we will be increasing our contributions back to the Cosmos ecosystem. So you're going to see a lot of pull requests from our team, and we're really excited. I think Cosmos, and also it's also a testament to the decentralization nature of Cosmos. Now we're slowly starting to see, hopefully, the contributions coming from outside the core team. Especially from the ecosystem. So I'm really excited for the future of Cosmos there.
Yeah, and one thing that I would say here is that Greg has an extremely strong background in open source, and I think every role that he's been in for the last 10 years, he's contributed upstream to the major projects that support the work that he's doing. And, you know, that's also been the case with my work in open source as well. And I think that to be a good open source citizen, it's really important that you support the projects that you're building on top of. Otherwise, those projects suffer from a tragedy of the commons, and you know, they fall into disuse, and then it's bad for everyone involved. And that's something we explicitly don't want to see here at Akash Network, and that we're going to be working to ensure does not happen with the Cosmos SDK. So it looks like Greg's video has dropped out just a bit. So in the meantime, in between time, I'll go ahead and answer some questions. Oh, and we lost Greg. So I'll just go ahead and answer some questions. Abhishek, you've got a couple of them. Team, which phase is recommended to try and deploy a proprietary application such as FreeFlix Studio or Cosmic Compass Console, Infura for Cosmos-based chains on AkashNet? That will be phase 3. You know, Abhishek, we're testing the internals of the blockchain piece in phase 2, and phase 3 will be all about actual deployments. Also, we'd like to know what are AkashNet's plans with Solana. We've been discussing with Solana how to deploy their nodes on top of the Akash network for larger test nets, and we will likely see them involved in phase 3. And, you know, one thing that I was mentioning earlier in the call is front ends for some of these decentralized applications being run on Akash, and anything that you're running on Solana, you could easily run the JavaScript front end on Akash. So that's what I would say there. Does that answer your question, Abhishek? Oh, and I've dropped out. Nope, still here. Okay, great. I think the only thing that's remaining here is to raffle off this Supermini. So I'm going to talk to Michael and kind of figure out what's going on there. But in the meantime, in between time, I guess we can turn this into an AMA Jack. So if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. And yeah. All right. Well, it looks like Greg is trying to get back online. I think he might be having some issues with his internet connectivity. Oh, there he is. And we got Greg back. Boom.
Technology.
You know, one of the things that I always like to say is that video conferencing is one of the hard problems in computer science.
I know, it's 2020. I do have the Supermini.
We were promised this in the 30s.
I know. I mean, and flying cars too.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there one of these days. Elon's working on it.
I think he's working on non-flying cars, digging cars. All right, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to do a roulette for the winners. We picked the names from the attendees of the last stream. So, let's see, wheel of names. Can everybody see my
I see you, Greg.
spinner? Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Click to spin. Oh, we got Molly. So she is.
We gotta spin again.
We gotta
spin again.
Yeah.
Again. Molly, congratulations! Big win there. A lot of names in this spinner that I know.
Oh, Alex Novi.
Wow. Well, there you go. Novi, congratulations.
Novi gets the Supermini. Novi's just a winner. That's fun.
Nice. Well, congratulations on the attack in phase 1, as well as winning the Supermini draw in phase 2.
Yeah. Yes. Awesome. That doesn't happen very often.
No.
Too much winning.
It doesn't.
Tired of winning. Did we answer all the questions? Sorry, I missed out.
It looks like a couple more just popped up here. So Boz asks, what are you most excited about, and what's your vision for a decentralized cloud? I can go ahead and answer that one real quick. So since I have been working in tech, the first job I had was at a company called Influx Data, and we built data center monitoring and cloud infrastructure monitoring databases as well as UI. It's a pretty well adopted product within the cloud monitoring space, so a bunch of you may have heard of it. But that work had me working with all of these large cloud systems and installations like Kubernetes. So by the time that I came into blockchain in early 2017, I had already had a lot of experience with these types of systems and was trying to figure out a way intellectually to bridge the gap between cloud and blockchain, because there is a fairly large cultural difference in the engineering cultures of those two worlds. And, at the end of the day, what we're building are distributed systems, and we use many of the same languages and libraries. So why can't we learn some of those best practices from cloud, as well as make blockchain more applicable to cloud computing? And, when I met Greg, probably about a year after I started at Cosmos, I immediately recognized that what Akash was sort of the vision that I had been having of a decentralized cloud network. And, quite frankly, what I'm most excited about is deploying and building this decentralized cloud network that I think that we would all really like to see out there. So that's what's got me excited about Akash. That's why I'm here. And that's what I'm planning to do, is build and ship that network. So thank you for the question, Boz. Someone
really excited. Another fun fact people need to know. Jack, when I demoed him, he immediately started using Akash, and of course we didn't have too much documentation going on there, and it took me about 4 hours to onboard him, and it was 10 o'clock in the evening, and he was the first user in our right chat, pretty sure. And so Jack is the first user, and immediately after we're done with the chat, he sends me a pull request for the documentation. So Jack is the first user and the first contributor to the source code outside the team back then. So I couldn't hope for a better person to join and lead product than the person that used the product and that person that loved to contribute to the product. So we're very, very excited for just Jack.
Thank you, Greg. And one thing I would note, be a good open source citizen. Push your code upstream. We accept pull requests during this entire competition, and we will try to reward those folks who do push code upstream. If you would like to contribute to the core libraries, we're happy to help you onboard on that, and please just reach out to me or Greg personally, and we will get you squared away. So yeah. And then one final question, when can we expect mainnet? We're working on final details on that now, and TLDR should be sometime within the next month to 6 weeks. We don't have an exact date yet, but it will be soon. And as soon as we have an exact date there, we will be pushing out communications around that. And it's just going to be the kind of same decentralized validator setup that we tested in phase 1. And we anticipate working closely with folks in order to launch that. So look forward to some communications around that sometime in the next week or 2.
Yeah. And we have a few questions. Did you answer the Solana question?
I did answer the Solana question while you were on hiatus. I mentioned that they would be likely deploying some nodes on the network and asked for folks to build front ends for various Solana applications and deploy them on Akash.
And
yeah.
When we have the IBC enabled, we're looking forward to enabling smart contracts on Akash, and we don't have the capability, and we believe Solana has incredible smart contracts, high-performance smart contracts capability with their throughput numbers that are astronomical. So you should be hopefully soon run Solana smart contracts using Akash, pay using Akash tokens, and in a very meta universal way, run that same compute on Akash itself. So it's like almost like using Solana software on Akash, which is hardware, paying to Solana using Akash tokens, but Solana gets the things. It's a beautiful, interoperable love story there.
One thing to note that I think I might have misspoken a little bit earlier. The drawing on this live stream was for the winner from the last live stream.
Right.
So I think I described this inaccurately. And the next live stream that we're doing, we will do a Supermini drawing as well, and it will be from the folks that stuck around till the end on this live stream. So thank you for the clarification there, Molly. I appreciate it.
And also, Superminis are not available any longer for sale. We sold out the first 300 units in about 4 weeks' time. So these are in very, very high demand. And the only way to get the Supermini right now is to come to the live stream. Awesome. The team, which I assume we answered all the questions, recommended try to deploy proprietary applications, Free Flex Studio, or Cosmic Compass. Did we answer that? Or?
Yeah, I did answer that. And, Abhishek was a participant in Game of Zones, and they have a custom zone that is very, very cool. I would encourage you to go check out FreeFlix Media Hub to anyone on the chat. Let me see if I've got a link to that.
Yeah, Andrews, or try to build your own Supermini. You totally are welcome. It's a permissionless world. No one's going to stop you. It will work. Anything, as long as you can run the provider daemon on the Akash network that you will learn how to in the phase 2. Nothing is going to stop you from running or building your own Supermini. I can't guarantee about the cool infinity mirror lasers though. that requires some work.
Infinity mirrors. I just dropped a link to a nice blog about FreeFlix Media Hub, and Abhishek did as well. Oh, there's a lot more here in this chat that I've missed. It's great to, Andy Boyan says it's great to know the folks involved in this project. I totally agree, and it's also nice to kind of get to know everyone here as well. And thank you guys for jumping on this live stream. We will be doing these once every couple of weeks to try to answer your questions. And I think that substantially has us on the questions there, Greg.
Yeah, before we spin down, shout out to our community member, Paul Lovett. Paul has been extremely active and extremely phenomenal community member. He also did a video that we just found out about right before the live stream. And even though we're done with all our community rewards, we're going to take some of our leftover rewards and we're going to reward Paul for his efforts because he's just awesome. And Paul's moniker, I believe, is Skynet, and it's really cool because Akash in Sanskrit means the sky. Akash net could mean the Skynet. So
Skynet.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, I love it. You're right.
Ever since I watched Terminator, I've had a dream of building Skynet, and I'm really glad that I can finally do it.
It is happening. We did post the link to Paul's video. I mean, he gives you an overview of Akash and the industry. It's a very well thought out and done video. Thank you, Paul.
Awesome.
Great. I think we covered everything we need to. Find us in the telegrams and the rights, talk to you there.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. Really appreciate it.